Hello, everybody, and happy 2019, and welcome to another episode of the Dropout Book Club. My name is Josh, and
I'm Jennifer.
And we're here to help you become better and have a better year this year than you had last year, and move the needle positively in all areas of your life, in your finances, in your health, in your relationships. And the best way that we figured out how to do that was to better educate ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we are going to be reading a book every 2 weeks. We're going to read a new book, and we're going to break it down together. And with your help, hopefully all of us grow and have the best year of our lives. But there's one thing that's for sure. If we don't educate ourselves, we won't do that. Albert Einstein said, no problem can be solved at the same consciousness that it was created. So we need to raise our consciousness. We need to raise our level of awareness. This week, the book we read was Own the Day, Own Your Life by Aubrey Marcus. Kind of a perfect book for beginning of the year.
Yeah.
It's kind of a self-help book. It's a development book, but it's kind of more of a guide to a way of being, like helping you develop habits that are implementable, that you can take and just really start the year right?
Yeah.
We're going to go through a couple of things that we really took out of it. A couple of quotes, though, that I really like from the book. On page 3, he talks about Nick Saban, possibly the greatest coach in the history of college football, tells his players to follow what he calls the process. He tells them that the average down in football lasts about 7 seconds. And if they want to win an SEC championship or a national title, they should focus on the smallest unit of measurement, 7 seconds. Don't get lost in the big picture, he says, and risk taking your eyes off the prize. Focus on what's in front of you. Focus on something you could chew and swallow. Focus on the micro, in other words, and the macro takes care of itself. And that's the approach we're going to take. The way to own your life is to own your day. Today. Because that's all you have. And I think that's a super important message, especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
Because we all sit down, we make resolutions, we think of ways that we can better ourselves, and we might make a big goal. And there's nothing wrong with that, really.
No.
But if you get caught up in the big goal, and because we're such an immediate gratification society where we want it now, we see a before, we see an after, we don't really see the process in the middle. We get caught up, overwhelmed, and a lot of time we stop ourselves from accomplishing the things we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I know I have a problem with that, and it's no different than, if you really think about it, like a metaphor that I use is building a brick wall. So it's not that there's a pile of bricks and then magically snap of a finger there's a whole wall there. A wall is built brick by brick, and that's kind of a way that you're going to help yourself this year become better, is incremental steps to help you get to the places you want to go. One of the things we used that helped us out was we, at the beginning of the year, went to selfauthoring.com, and we did Jordan Peterson's future authoring program, which is really, really great for helping you break down those big picture goals into kind of smaller, easier to attain goals. And the day is really the smallest unit.
Yeah.
You could break down much smaller than that, of course, but the day is the only time that you control. And right now, the now is actually the only time that you control. It's the only time that you have right in front of you to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So,
yep.
Another quote that I really liked, actually, just going on the same principle, was from the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. The book says, or he said, "Today is victory over yourself of yesterday, and tomorrow is victory over a lesser foe." And what I take from that is that kind of another Jordan Peterson principle is, don't compare yourself to other people necessarily, and don't get caught in that minutia as well, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Be better than the person you were yesterday. And then by becoming better yesterday, the tasks in the future may not be easier, but they'll probably feel easier. You'll be more confident. You'll have more energy.
Another thing to keep in mind too is you're the best one to compare yourself to, because you compare yourself to somebody else, they're not where you're at.
Yeah.
So they are in a different place in their lives, and you don't know the steps that they've taken to get to where they're at.
Yeah.
So you can't compare yourself to somebody who,
basically that's it. And that's very, very important, because especially today with social media and just 24/7 media coverage of celebrities and other people, it's easy to look at them and say, there's somebody who's my age who's doing these miraculous things, and why am I not there? Well, you don't know what happened in their life that helped drive them to that point. And maybe you just haven't hit that point yet. But there's no better time than today to turn it all around. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Things in life are never
absolutely.
easy.
And another thing is, a lot of times those people that are in a place that you want to be, they've put in a lot of work and a lot of time to get there.
Yeah.
So you can't just look at them and think, like, oh, in a month this is where I'm going to be. Sometimes it can take years, but you just got to start right now, improving on one thing that you can improve upon to get to where you want to be or where they're at.
Yeah, like us, we're not perfect, obviously, but stick with us and stick with this, and hopefully we'll see the progress that we both make through this. But we're going to dive into this book a little bit and talk about a couple of the things that he talks about that we took away, so and actually implement it, and things that we saw were a major difference. One thing I want to say though is this book doesn't have there's no real bad points.
No.
You know, you could go through this and implement almost everything, and you'll probably have a positive impact in your life.
100%.
But on the flip side of that, I'm jumping a little ahead. Don't feel bad if you don't implement everything. I mean, this book is, what is it? You know, almost 400 pages long, and each page has, you know, something that you can take away and you could start today. But obviously that's even a little overwhelming, you know, and even the author, Aubrey, says he doesn't do all these things in the book that he talks about, but he does try to better himself day in and day out. And he does try to make that day the best day of his life, you know, and that's a big principle. So chapter 1 talks about the morning mineral cocktail, and what that is, it's pretty simple. It's 12 ounces water, it's a quarter lemon, and it's a teaspoon of sea salt. And sea salt, because sea salt has a lot of minerals in it, and it's the first thing we drink in the morning when we get up. And I know for me, it makes me just feel good.
Me too.
You just feel better by drinking it, and it could be placebo, but most likely it's not. Most likely it's because when you sleep, you can lose anywhere between a pound and a half of just pure water weight through sweating it out at night and not drinking for 8 hours. And one quote from the book, actually, that he talks about hydration and how important hydration is, because you don't realize the effect it can have on you when you don't drink enough water. So he says, there are studies on both men and women showing that even mild dehydration resulting from fluid loss equaling roughly 1% of your body weight can cause headaches, moodiness, irritability, anxiety, and fatigue. And I know I felt at least one of those things in the morning before, especially the fatigue part and the moodiness part and the irritability part. those ones are pretty heavy for me. And back to the book, he also says, decreases in mental performance and short-term memory loss can start at as little as 2% loss in water. So if you've ever had that morning where you wake up and you're just not quite feeling it and you don't know what's going on,
or you run out of the house and you forget a million things and you have to turn around, come home, get what you forgot. That might have something to do with you being dehydrated.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that quite a bit too. and you know, and we exacerbate the problem by the first thing we normally pour into our bodies when we wake up is coffee. And coffee works as a diuretic, and it only enhances the problem of dehydration first thing in the morning. So even though you get that spike where you feel good for a little while, I know for me this has been 100% true. You crash, and when you crash, you feel way worse than you did ever before you drank the coffee initially in the morning. And so one thing he says is lay off the coffee first thing. And that was a tough one for me, not implementing it, but just the idea of it.
Yeah, you're a coffee fiend.
Yeah. First thing, the idea of not drinking coffee seems counterproductive, but it's not. If you hydrate yourself, you're gonna feel so much better. So this one is real easy, but you got to make these things easy for you. He talks about drinking at room temperature, and I know first thing in the morning, the last thing I would want to do is take out a lemon. Even though how simple it sounds, take out a lemon, cut it up, make a drink, and get some sea salt and measure it out, all that stupid stuff. What we do is we have a large tea pitcher, and we'll make enough to where it'll last us for 2 or 3 days, and we'll set it on the counter. It's room temperature. You pour yourself a glass. It makes it simple. You got to make these things simple for you to do, because if they're not simple,
you're not going to do it.
You're not going to do it. Yeah, absolutely. So, and we make it, if we run out, we make it the night before, so it's there ready first thing in the morning. So that's one of the easiest things to implement, start doing, and see what that does. Because for me, I've cut out, my caffeine intake by half. I've halved it easily.
Well, tell them what you were doing.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was doing was I'd drink a cup of coffee in the morning, and then when I was on my way to work, I'd pick up an energy drink, and I'd drink that. So you're looking at already 260 milligrams of caffeine, and then halfway through the day, I drink another energy drink. So that's another 160 milligrams of caffeine. And then later on throughout the day, I may drink another coffee or something like that. So you're looking at over 500 milligrams of caffeine in a day. And people say some people say that's okay. Some people say you want to keep it way below that. But one thing I notice is that when you drink that much caffeine, obviously, eventually you build a tolerance to it. So you're going to always want to drink more, and you are going to feel it can lead to an increase in anxiety. It can lead to an increase in irritability, and a lot of these things that you get just from being dehydrated. So if you just flip the script, hydrate yourself. I've noticed myself being way more even keel throughout the day than before I ever used to just pound caffeine throughout. It's been extremely helpful. So that's the first thing. Easy takeaway, easy implementation. Highly recommend it, whether it's placebo, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'll drink my cocktail in the morning, and before I drink anything else, and it could be placebo, but I feel better.
That's all that matters. I mean, if you feel better, it doesn't matter if it's helping, not helping. I mean, you feel better. So that's the biggest thing, and it's not going to hurt you. Like this, and it can't hurt you. You know. So do that. Easy implementation. Make it before you go to bed. Make it easy on yourself. That's the first part from chapter 1 that we really implement it. And the next one is one of probably my favorite takeaways from this book, and this has actually helped with the caffeine as well. Is chapter 2 is called Deep Breathe, Deep Freeze, and he talks about the Wim Hof breathing method. So the Wim Hof breathing method, let me start there, is where you take 30 to 50 deep breaths. So, and then you just let your chest fall. You don't really put a whole lot of focus on breathing through the nose or breathing through the mouth. Mm-hmm. You just breathe, right? And he talks about doing that when you're in the shower. Do that at the end when you've cleaned yourself up and you're about to get out. Do 30 to 50 deep breaths, and then because you'll start to feel this, especially early in the morning, you'll feel a little lightheaded, get a little tingly in your fingers and your toes and your limbs. And when you do that, he talks about flipping it to cold automatically. I like to hold my breath though, because that's the end of the Wim Hof, is where you hold your breath. And so hold your breath, flip it to as cold as it can get, and do it again. And it is great. It's really fantastic. It's so weird that how good it is. I mean, if you do it, it's not fun. It's probably the least fun thing that you're going to do.
Yeah.
Easily.
And I'll tell you one thing is I've been doing it and I don't make it to 30 when I flip it to the cold. Like the first time I did it, I probably made it to maybe 10. Because it is such a shock to the body and it's so cold. So whenever you're first starting, just try to go, try to extend it out each time that you get in there and you do it. But once you get out of the shower, it's amazing how great you feel. And that's what motivates me to do it again the next day, is I just remember how great I felt after I got out of the shower when I did it. And that's literally the only reason why I go through basically that torture. Temporary torture.
And this is definitely not placebo. There's hard science behind this and why it works. Back to the book here, he says, temporarily depriving yourself of breath releases some of the same hormones that coffee produces, namely adrenaline or norepinephrine. So it's just like taking like 2 espresso shots early in the morning. You drink them and then you just feel great. You feel all pumped up, but instead you don't put anything in your body. It's just all natural. And you walk out feeling more energized and ready for the day. And refreshed than you could feel probably doing almost anything else except for exercise, really. It's tremendously helpful. And there's some other benefits to taking cold showers as well. So he talks about the benefits to cold exposure, which include, the obvious one is building willpower. So if you're going to, because you're not going to want to do it. I mean, it's pretty simple. You just don't want to do it. You don't want to, first thing in the morning, blast yourself with cold water.
Well, and the other thing that he mentions in the book is the process of this is take your normal shower. Take your nice, hot, warm shower in the morning, and then right before you get out, that's when you do this. So once you're finished cleaning yourself, enjoy that nice, warm shower in the morning. Towards the end, do your breathing exercises and then flip it to cold. And that's another thing that helps me do it, is because I know that I can get in there, I can relax, I'm not dreading the shower. I'm taking a nice warm shower, and then right before I get out, I turn that sucker to cold, and it feels not great, but it feels great afterwards. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
So, and then he also talks about how acute stress responses. He talks a lot about inflammation, and we're not going to go into everything. Read the book. It's a great book. You're going to get a lot of takeaways from it, but acute stress responses actually help with inflammation. So there's good inflammation, bad inflammation. He goes deep in that on the book. I'll let him do that. You check it out. But other benefits is just a cold shower. Keep your skin and hair healthy. It actually increases testosterone levels. So if you're a dude, or a chick, who cares really? Check it out. It's real good. And it improves your circulation, which is a huge benefit, especially today. So once again, not the funnest takeaway that we have.
And boosts your immune system.
Oh yeah, and it boosts your immune system too, which is definitely another huge thing, especially with all the different toxins today that we come in contact with just in our day-to-day life. So another huge takeaway. Definitely do that. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. On chapter 6, he talks about different plants that help you out. And one that most people don't talk about, because he talks about coffee, of course, and he talks about other things. But one that you wouldn't think would be in a book like this is nicotine. Now, people hear nicotine and they immediately think cigarettes and stuff like that, and just full disclosure, he says it too, don't smoke cigarettes. They're bad. There's nothing good that really comes from them. There's a million chemicals in them that are totally terrible for your health, horrible for your health. But nicotine by itself is actually a nootropic. It helps with your cognition, and it helps you get into a flow state. And I just want to show this real quick, because this is one of the things that I use, and this is called Zen. And this is tobacco-free nicotine pouches. So it's similar to a snus pouch, but it has no tobacco in it. There's no fiberglass, and there actually isn't even a Surgeon General warning on this, other than warning this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is addictive, which is something to be worried about. You know, I mean, you could, but with the small, what are you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, and it also comes in different levels. So this one is
3
milligrams, and so also. I think this is the lowest one, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the lowest ones. Yeah, actually, it is the lowest one.
Yeah, the lowest one, and then also comes in higher amounts, so you can kind of control it in that sense as well. You know the exact amount that you're getting per pouch.
But I've noticed, I'm in sales, and you know, there's obviously days where you don't feel like you can be as creative, or you don't feel on your A game. And when talking to other people, it just gives you a great boost, helps you get your words out, express your thoughts without any kind of stumbling blocks. And it's just a great little boost. It's also another thing that's helped me wean off caffeine. So, and it's excellent. So that's something to look into. Obviously, there's gum and there's patches. Do your own research. Dave Asprey talks about this on his Bulletproof site a little bit, so maybe check that out. It's a great little takeaway from this book, and actually it's the only book that I've ever read that throws nicotine in there as a nootropic.
Yeah, and then there's also something else to keep in mind is once you do your research, you'll also find that there are some negative side effects. So that's also something to just keep in mind whenever you're...
Yeah, negative side effects that mostly, you know, they come from overdosing on nicotine or doing too much. And that's something definitely to keep in mind, because it's easy for us to, he talks about that as well later on. He talks about hedonic, there's a word that he uses, it's called hedonic, let me find it here for a second. It's very interesting. Hedonic tolerance is what he talks about. And this is important, actually. This could go into any area of your life. Hedonic tolerance is basically where you find something that you like and you do too much of it. From the book, he says, hedonic tolerance happens with everything: sex, drugs, food, extreme sports. Basically, he says that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. It's so true, and it's a principle I think most people know. Yeah. But they don't live it, you know? And if you aren't living this principle, not only are you going to be a slave to your habits, but your habits aren't even going to be enjoyable. The things that are enjoyable, like a bowl of ice cream, should be enjoyable. You shouldn't walk away saying, oh man, I really regret what I just did, you know?
If you're going to eat a bowl of ice cream, you want to enjoy it and not have any bad feelings after you eat it. It's just not worth it. It doesn't make any sense.
Alcohol in excess, another one of those things that's just bad. Masturbation, that's another one of those things. Mm-hmm. Porn, it's all bad in excess. Everything is bad in excess. Everything in moderation it can necessarily not be a bad thing. Obviously, you know, there's lines to that. Use common sense. Don't go out and do heroin in moderation, because obviously that's not going to work for you. But you could do things in moderation that make sense and enjoy them. And that's what life's about, is really enjoying the things that you want to enjoy. And so that's another thing he talks about. And one of the last things we're going to cover here is he talks about tuning out on screens and phones. And I think this is huge, especially in our society today. Yeah. And here's one, I just want to talk about it, because most people are just social media addicts. And unfortunately, whatever it is, we don't have a problem with this one, and because we're just not very big into social media. And social media is not bad, just like everything else we talked about. In moderation, it's a good thing. But if you find yourself up at night checking your Facebook feed, checking your Twitter feed, looking on Instagram, you're only hurting yourself. You're not helping yourself. All the blue light is getting into your system, which is light that your body perceives as daylight, which keeps you up at night. It messes with your circadian rhythm, which messes with your sleep, which messes with you owning the next day. And that's a big thing. We want to string together days, good days, where you own the day and you are making an exponential gain on the steps that you're taking.
And really, your day starts the night before. Get into bed early, getting a good night's rest so you can wake up early in the morning and be productive and start your day the way that you want to start it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've started a policy, which, we've had minor success. We're still working on it, but no screens after 7 because we wake up pretty early in the morning. So by 7 p.m., everything is turned off. That gives us, we wake up at 4 a.m. So that gives us 9 hours where we can tune everything out. And what we found, or at least myself, is that it's helped with, this is our cat Daisy. Say hello to Daisy. So what we found is that helps with anxiety levels. It helps you tune in to the people that you love around you, which is super important.
Yeah.
Being there, being present. Because what's the point of being with somebody if you're not actually with them?
Exactly.
That's huge. And it helps you wind down and relax and take the rest of the day off. And by no screens, we're talking about all screens ourselves. So no TV, no phones, no laptops, just tuning it all out. And if right now you're saying to yourself, oh, I can't do that, maybe you got a problem. If there's something where you say, I can't do that. Now, unless you're like an international lawyer or a doctor, you can probably do that. You can turn it off for a little while. The world's not going to stop spinning.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for everybody, I think. And it gives you an opportunity to do something better, like read a book, do something where you have, it's a productive activity, and you're going to take away something valuable from it instead of, browsing Netflix and browsing Hulu because you've ran out of things to watch. Those are some of the biggest takeaways that we had from this book. And there's so many other things. And we haven't mastered everything, of course.
No.
But we're working on things. We're working on our diet. He talks about a lot in this book we're not going to go into. He talks about workouts a lot in this book. If you've read this book, what was your biggest takeaway? Leave us a comment. Tell us what you implemented and what it did to your life and how it helped. And if you haven't read this book, go out and get it. It's a great book. We're going to leave a link below so you guys could go out and grab the book for yourself. It's they got the hardcover, of course, but it's also on Audible. Check that out. We listened to a lot of it. That's how we were able to get through it. There's no right or wrong way to read a book. Read a book. Don't be afraid. Myself, she's a little different, but don't be afraid. You see, I got tabs in this, and I write throughout these whole books. I use them as workbooks, basically. Don't be afraid to write through your book. Leave yourself notes. Express your thoughts so you could go back and you can look at it at a later date, maybe, and really take away what you were thinking at that time. So we hope that you've enjoyed this book, and we hope that you enjoyed this video. And this year, we want you and ourselves, really, to get better. Have the best year that we've had so far. Make 2019 a fantastic year. And, the only way we're going to really do that is by educating ourselves and making ourselves better. Mm-hmm. And according to a Pew Research poll from 2018, the typical American only read 4 books in a year. And I want you to think about something. The typical CEO reads a book a week. Now, they are getting a lot of knowledge from that. And it shows in the way they're getting paid and their lifestyles.
Well, and that's another thing too is they're reading the book, but they're also implementing what they're reading, and that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. You can read as many books as you want, and you can have all the knowledge, but if you're not actually implementing that knowledge, you're still not going to get anywhere. So if you're a person who reads a lot of books and you're like, well, I read tons of books and it hasn't done anything for me, well, are you doing what the books are saying? Are you taking action? And that is so important as well. Yeah. Knowledge is empowered, but applied knowledge is power. So please like and subscribe.
to our channel, leave a comment, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, tell us what you thought about the book, and also let us know, if you want us to read a certain book or review a certain book. We're open to recommendations. There's really nothing that we won't cover. I don't think we'll cover anything. And the next book that we're going to read and review is called Factfulness. It is the 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think. It's by Hans Rosling. Get the book, get the audiobook, whatever's going to help you finish this book in the next 2 weeks. It's not super long. I think we're looking at almost 300 pages here, but it's a real easy read. It's real easy to get through. And we'll be back here to discuss it in 2 weeks. So thank you, and have a great day.